when you give an inch, they take a mile. Previously on If My Math Is Mathing, I didn't want to scare you guys. Good morning, crew. Welcome back. This feels so weird because I haven't vlogged in so long, but we are going back to work. I'm working a 3-day trip. This is my Christmas trip. Today is Christmas Eve, so for those of you who celebrate Christmas or just in general, happy holidays. It is 5:18. I am running late as always, and it is time for us to leave the house. This trip actually has a deadhead today. For those of you who are new or do not know what a deadhead is, it is basically when you fly as a passenger, but you're still considered working crew, so you're getting paid to fly as a passenger. We technically have 3 legs, but because we have a deadhead, we have 2 working legs, and I'm laying over in a city I have never, which is Portland, Maine. So that's my spiel for you this morning, and I will see you guys in the next clip. All right, so I just got to the airport, and I drove because I didn't want to have to deal with the Uber surge charging, but I almost had to lose my cool on this guy in the garage driving like if he's the only person there, swerving in the middle of the road, like, sir. So I am now about to go through security, and hopefully Chick-fil-A is open because I'm starving. So I'll see you guys in the next clip. Hey crew, so I have just made it to LaGuardia. My commuting flight came in at another terminal, so I had to ride the shuttle over here to this terminal. It is 8:53, so I still have about an hour until I have to sign in. So I'm going to enjoy my time to myself, and I will see you guys in the next clip. Hey crew, so we have just made it to Tampa. Leg 1 of 3 is finished, and my next leg is a deadhead. Fun fact, last year, Christmas, I believe, I was rerouted to lay over in Tampa. So let's cross our fingers that there are no reroutes on this trip. So far, so good. I'm just really tired. So I will probably speak to you guys again once I get to the hotel tonight in Portland. So see you tonight. I don't think that really makes a difference. Hey crew, please excuse my disheveled look because it's been a long day. It is, come on, focus. I know you can see that, 11:29. I've been up since 4 o'clock in the morning, and we have made it to the hotel room. Thankfully, we made it here. We did not get rerouted. I can give you a quick little, my shoulder. A quick little tour before I start living in the room. Nothing spectacular is going on here. I am here for 30 hours. I think I told you guys 35, but it's actually 30. After I get settled, we will sit down and have a crew debriefing before I go to sleep tonight because I am tired. So let me do this room tour. Clearly I'm getting distracted. So like I said earlier, we are in Portland, Maine. Fun fact, this is my first time coming to the state of Maine. I have never been here before, so that's something interesting. Okay, that does not work. But like I said, I will talk to you guys in a few because I need to get my life together. So see you in the next clip. All right, crew, so I have unwound. The bonnet is back, and it is time to do our crew debriefing. So first things first is shout out to my crew member Don't look at the presentation because it's my fault that it looks so disheveled, but, and don't mind the AC heater unit, it wants to take the shine. But anywho, she brought us little goodie bags for the holidays, which was very sweet of her. She didn't have to do that. So I got a milk chocolate candy and some candy canes. Oh, Warhead candy canes. I've never seen that before. So that was really sweet of her. I'm not going to eat any of this tonight because I don't want to have candy on my teeth before going to sleep. But now let's get down to business. We had 3 legs today. I'm not too sure if I told you guys that this morning. We had 3 legs total, but we had 2 working legs. So we worked LaGuardia to Tampa. We sat for 2 hours. Sitting for 2 hours means that we had 2-hour time in between the time that the first flight ended and the next flight started. Then we had a deadhead, and I know I explained that to you guys earlier, but why not repeat it? It is basically when you fly as a passenger, but you're still getting paid and you're considered working crew. It repositions you in the middle, beginning, end of your trip. Wherever they need to get you to, you deadhead, basically. So we deadheaded from Tampa to Atlanta, another 2-hour, almost 3-hour sit. And then we were a little delayed leaving Atlanta because our pilots were delayed on their inbound. And then we did Atlanta to Portland, Maine. So first problem here is that it's 19 degrees and I'm not built for this type of weather. But I did come prepared. But let me tell you a little backstory. So as you guys know, or if you don't know, my routine is when I'm working or packing, planning, all of the above, for a trip that I know where I'm going. So not being on call, like an actual trip on my line, I always look at my layover cities and look at the weather so I know what to pack. Now, for some odd reason, I thought I was going to Florida. Maybe on my trip that I swapped out of, I had a Florida layover. Honestly, I can't remember. Or I got mixed up with seeing that there was Tampa on one of today's legs, and I just thought that's where I was laying over. Who knows what was going on in my brain, because I don't even know. So I'm about to pack last night summer clothes because I'm like, oh, Florida's going to be hot. This is going to be a long layover. It'll be wonderful. I can go out and explore. Now, something told me to research what the airport code PWM was because I'm not familiar with that code. And I saw it said Portland, Maine. And I was like, oh no, it's not going to be warm there. Last night when I checked the temperature, last night was 20 degrees, so we're 1 degree colder. So I was like, oh yeah, we're going to have to scrap all of the outfits or ideas I had planned and start afresh, because can you imagine me packing summer clothes and I'm in 19-degree weather? Actually, one of the crew members forgot her coat, so that would have been me, and I would have been an icebox. Anywho, first flight was informed or brought to our attention that it was oversold, but we left with open seats, so I'm not sure what happened. Oh no, the gate agent did say like some crazy number, like almost 19 people didn't show up, which is baffling to me. But the second flight was the deadhead. I slept. I couldn't tell you how many people were on the plane. And then the last flight was fairly full, but there were still a few seats. But the last flight is always that last flight that is eventful. Now, we had a lot of children on this flight, which is to be expected. You know, everyone's traveling with their families for the holidays, and we get everybody on board. This flight was delayed, but we were actually able to leave out before our original scheduled departure time and get out on time. Now, if you guys don't know, passengers cannot be up, standing up, walking to the bathroom, in the bathroom while the safety demo is going on. That causes for us to have to stop and restart or do the whole thing over. I don't know why the lighting keeps changing, which is weird. So this lady, I guess, decided to get up, and one of the flight attendants was like, I need you to go sit back down. And she's like, is it an emergency?
Now, I'm watching this interaction and the lady's like not responding. So my first thought was maybe she's one of the passengers who did not speak English, because we did have quite a few on the flight. And then she like slowly responds, yeah. She couldn't figure out how to close the door. She kept opening the, we were like, we're waiting on you. So from her interaction with the other flight attendant, I was like, you know, something's off about this interaction. And the flight attendant then told me that she was stumbling, like she was falling over. I was like, okay, this appears to be, and I can't say 100% because I'm not this person. I don't know what they did prior to getting on the plane, but from what it looked like, she may have taken some type of substance and then got on the plane and potentially have mixed it with an alcoholic beverage. So that lady was higher than a plane in the sky. And guess where she was trying to sit? In the exit row.
No ma'am. No ma'am.
So obviously that did not cut, that did not fly. I cannot count on you in the event of emergency, so we had to do some moving around. But it was just a strange encounter, and she was traveling with someone, and I think honestly he was more embarrassed for her than she was for herself. So yeah, that is pretty much the only thing that happened on the flight. There was a cute newborn baby, like, and when I mean newborn, I mean fresh newborn baby. I haven't seen a baby that small since this panorama. So I was just like mesmerized by the baby. But other than that, I am done flapping my gums. It is 11:57. It is way past my bedtime, and I will speak to you guys hopefully tomorrow on Christmas Day. So yeah, have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow. Good afternoon, crew, and Merry Christmas. Please excuse my teeth. I'm doing like a teeth whitening treatment since I'm in my hotel room. I wanted to sit down and talk to you guys about something really quickly. Two things that I forgot to tell you about yesterday's flights, and then something that's just general. I'm laying my edges, so that's why I have this on. Just ignore it. So, as I said in one of my past Vlogmas videos, I was feeling a little sad about being by myself for the holidays, and I just couldn't knock that feeling. So starting this trip yesterday, I was literally feeling like the Grinch, but my crew is so nice that, you know, they kind of lifted my spirits. Today I am feeling a little sad, but not as much as I was when I started the trip. So yeah, I just wanted to say, you know, the holidays can be a hard time for everyone. It's okay to feel sad. It is okay to have feelings. Just don't let them, what's the word, consume you. So it's 1:57. I don't have plans for the rest of the day. I will warm up my food that I brought with me on this trip. The hotel does provide a Christmas dinner, but I don't eat steak, so, and that's the only option. So I will be eating in my room, which is fine. But one thing that I wanted to tell you guys that happened on both of the working flights I worked yesterday was passengers asking for drinks during deplaning. Like, flight is over, we've landed, we're at the gate, boarding doors open, we are actively deplaning, and these passengers were like one of the last ones. One guy was like, is it too late for me to get something to drink? I looked at the other flight attendant like, he's joking, right? Like, I'm waiting for him to say, oh, I'm just kidding. I was like, sir, service was finished before we landed. He's like, oh, so I can't get anything now? And I was like, no. That was the first flight. The flight here, another passenger did the same thing. And I've never had this happen to me on any flights I've worked out of any of the airlines that I've worked for. So I just found it was bizarre, and that it happened twice in one day. Other than that, that is it for right now. I do plan on probably recording a video that should most likely really will come out before the end of the year, and yeah, so stay tuned because I'm going to be wearing these same clothes. So once you watch that video, comment down below in that video's comment section what my layover was. We are in Portland, Maine. You can write Portland, Maine, or you can write PWM, which is the airport code. So I'll see you guys in the next clip. Okay, crew, so it is 5:25 p.m. I not too long finished recording the video. I have ironed my uniform for tomorrow, and crew scheduling just called me. So there is a change in our report time. I get to sleep in 3 more hours, so thank you, but I'm not, knock on wood, I'm hoping that there's no more changes and that we can make it home either earlier or the same time as planned, because if you remember last year, Thanksgiving, I got rerouted. So not much to do this evening. I'm going to be productive and work on a little bit of things for you guys. And I think I'm going to bid you a good night now. If I come back after this, then that means it's a bonus. But if not, I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Good morning, crew. It is 8:07 and I have to be downstairs in about 5 minutes. I wanted to come on and update you guys on what happened with the trip. As I said last night, crew scheduling called, so there has been a change in my rotation. I have been rerouted, and in this instance, I've been rerouted with technically the same amount of flights that I would have been working, but an additional flight is added because I have to deadhead back to base, with today being go home day. So now I'm doing Portland to Atlanta, Atlanta to St. Louis, St. Louis to Atlanta. So they added a St. Louis turn and took off my Atlanta to Fort Lauderdale to LaGuardia legs that were originally a part of this rotation. So another fun fact is that I lose my crew that I worked this whole trip with after this first leg, and I pick up I think an Atlanta-based crew for the remainder of the rotation before it's time for me to deadhead back to New York. And then the last thing that is not too good is that this morning when I went to go pack up my bags, somehow the fridge popped open, so none of my stuff was being refrigerated. Luckily, I ate the majority of my food yesterday and I just had one meal in there, but it's not a fun sight to see when you have food that has wasted because of something that was outside of your control. Other than that, today's going to be a good day. It's go home day. I'm ready to go home, and I will see you guys in the next clip. Hey crew, so it is the day after our trip, and obviously we need to do our crew debriefing. I didn't really talk to you yesterday other than at the hotel before leaving, because yesterday was eventful with a lot of changes, reroutes, rushing, and all of the above. So like I said in the morning yesterday, my schedule was changed, and instead of working Portland, Maine to Atlanta, Atlanta to Fort Lauderdale, Fort Lauderdale to LaGuardia, we worked Portland to Atlanta, and then the crew was split up. Everyone was assigned different turns out of Atlanta, and I worked Atlanta to St. Louis, and then I was supposed to deadhead St. Louis to, I worked, let me try this another time. Take number 2. I worked Portland to Atlanta. We were all split up, and then I worked Atlanta to St. Louis to Atlanta, and then we were all supposed to meet back up again in deadhead, which, if you don't know, deadhead is when you fly as a passenger, but you're still considered working crew. and deadhead Atlanta to LaGuardia, and the trip would have been over. So once I finished my St. Louis turn, I put in a request for deviation. Typically, we can do it without speaking directly to crew scheduling, but because of the shortages in crew members and everything that went on this holiday weekend, all, like, I guess, electronic deviations had been suspended, and you had to get approved case by crew scheduling. So I reached out to crew scheduling, or I reached out on one of our platforms, and it took them 3 hours for them to respond to my message. I'm happy I did it before I even started the turn, because if I waited until the last leg, I would have missed all the flights to go home, and it would have defeated the purpose. So I was finally approved to deviate, so I went Atlanta and came back home. But first flight, as you guys know, was delayed 3 hours, and we still ended up leaving an additional hour late because of the snow in Portland. We had to get de-iced, and that takes some time. So the passengers were fine. There was no problem. A lot of them did misconnect, but I'm assuming that they were rebooked on later flights. And a lot of them, if they did not misconnect, now their connection time was very small. So I had a passenger on the flight who, while we were doing service, informed me that he had a tight connection. And I always take this with a grain of salt, because a lot of people don't know that when on the app, the time it's showing you is from the time that boarding commences and not the departure time. So when there's people like, oh, I have a really tight connection, I only have 20 minutes until my flight departs. No, typically it's 20 minutes from the time your flight starts boarding. And if that's the case, then you have ample enough time. So he was telling me, he had 17 minutes or something of that sort to get to his connecting flight. And if you don't know, Atlanta is huge. If you're not landing in the same concourse as your connecting flight, you do have to ride the air train or whatever it's called in Atlanta over to the next concourse, and that can take some time. So I can't remember if he was staying in the same concourse or not, but he was like, yeah, is there any possibility that I can move up closer so I can be one of the first few people to get out the plane? Well, at that moment we were doing service, so I explained to him, once we finish service, I'll see what I can do, and I'll look up to see if there's any vacant seats. And he was very thankful. He was like, thank you so much. So after service, I went to go check the cabin to see if there was any more seats, and there was. So when I went to go explain to him, I said, once we are about to land, when we come through and we're picking up trash for the final time and everything, that is when you can move to this specific seat, but you need to stay in your seat until that time. And he's like, okay, well, what about my bag? I said, at that time, we can look to see if there's a possibility of moving your bag closer to where you'll be sitting. He's like, oh, well, can't you go take it down for me and move it now? I looked at this man like, see, when you give an inch, they take a mile. Like, sir, it's not my responsibility to get your bag. Let's make that clear. And once it is time to move, then you can get your bag, and we can see if there's a possibility to move your bag closer, as close as possible to where you're sitting. But I am not getting your bag and moving your bag for you. So after that finished, when we finally hit initial descent, we're going through the cabin. Sorry, when we hit final descent, we're going through the cabin. He moved, no problem. He got lucky. There was a spot right across from where he was sitting. But we're going through and we're doing compliance checks, and this gentleman does not have his seatbelt on. So I gently tap him and I'm like, excuse me, sir. And from the place where I was standing, I couldn't really see if he was asleep. So I kind of tilted my head to lean down to see his eyes, and his eyes were wide open, and he wasn't looking at the TV, or he wasn't on his phone or anything like that. So I'm like, excuse me, sir, and I tap him again, and I'm looking at him like, what is this man doing? Because he's not acknowledging, is he asleep with his eyes open? So then he's like, oh, I was just ignoring you. I heard you tapping. I heard you and I felt you tapping me. I looked at him like, what was the point of that? Put your seatbelt on. He's like, wasn't that funny? No, it wasn't. That was just a strange encounter for me. Now, the last thing that happened is always on the last leg on go home day, you know that things want to go left. The last passenger on the flight, so this is my last working flight because, you know, I commuted home from Atlanta. So St. Louis to Atlanta, the last passenger who got on, this man looked like he dibbled and dabbled in extracurricular activities, and he probably did a little bit too much that he couldn't handle it because, first of all, strike number one, he came down with no mask on at all. I don't even know how the gate agent let him board like that, but that's not what we're talking about. So before he stepped on the plane, I said, sir, can you please put your mask on? Well, he seemed to be in some sort of daze, so it took him a while to like process that. And then he finally put the mask on, but in the process of him putting the mask on, he almost fell in between the jet bridge and the plane. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Once again, a delay response. And then he's like staggering, holding on to everything to get onto the plane. So I asked him where his seat was because at this point, I'm alert because you look like you may not be able to fly with us today. So I informed the pilots, you know, they said they support whatever call I do decide to make, and to just let the gate agent know. I also spoke to the other flight attendants to see if they saw what I saw because I didn't want it only be me like, oh yeah, no, he can't come. And then everyone else thought that he was fine. The other flight attendants were like, yeah, you know, we saw him staggering and his mask was off again by the time he came to his seat. So now that's the second time he's been told that his mask needs to be put on. So when the gate agent comes down, I'm like, the last passenger that boarded, you know, something is a little off with him. He was stumbling. He almost fell. He was like, yeah, he was all over the place in the gate. You saw that too? And I'm looking at this gate agent like, well, why would you let him on the plane if he was like this? You know, you're not supposed to board people if they seem to be under the influence and cannot, you know, keep up with themselves. And he was like, oh, well, I'll get a manager for you to speak to the manager. Needless to say, the gentleman continued on with us to Atlanta. Thankfully, there wasn't any type of situation in flight. And for the most part, from what the flight attendant that was working in the back told me, he kept his mask on. So yeah, that is pretty much it for this last day of this trip. I'm thankful that I made it home because for a split second, I thought I was not going to be able to commute home last night. And yeah, that's about it. So if you've made it to the end of this vlog, thank you so much for watching. And as always, stay safe and see you soon.